Morning, Ralph.
Morning, Sam.
All right, welcome to Morning Sam, Morning Ralph. I am Paul Molinari. I'm joined with my co-host Michael Beck. Michael, it's so good to see you, man. You're alive.
Live and in the house. Yeah, I've been on the road on and off. We've had hurricanes hit Florida. We've had all kinds of fun disruption, but it's just another day in the world of hospitality. So glad to be back.
Well, it's good to see you. We were worried about you with all the storms that were going on down there. But speaking of all of the crazy storms that are happening, what about those storms inside kitchens everywhere? We have a super cool topic today.
Yeah, there's definitely a story to tell. And I don't think we know of anybody listening right now would probably say that one of the most chaotic places on the planet is inside of a restaurant, right? All the orders flying through, all the information that's getting exchanged, all the waiting customers, all the eager people that are angsty to get their meal, and all the people with the pressure on to deliver it to them. I think there's a lot of information going on there that just could be a storm.
So that's why we are super excited today to have Fran Doherty, the CEO of Curbit, and Scott Siegel, the co-founder and CRO of Curbit. And today's topic is restaurants. We have a handoff problem. So these guys are going to tell us everything that Curbit does to help, basically, what do they call it? Happy handoffs between the kitchen and the guest.
Am I allowed to be playful with that statement, fellas, as I introduce you? I'm not even stepping out of character.
I love it, man. I don't know. I'll take a happy handoff anytime I can get one. Let's just be real.
It's better than the alternative.
Boy, oh boy, yes. I think I come in here.
I think, Michael, it's now. Why don't you get these guys on before it gets really?
Usually I'm the one getting us in hot water with different plays on words. Right. Thanks, Paul and Scott and Fran. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And boy, what a treat you're in for. And I think we're actually in for a bigger treat to hear this stuff from you. Hey, we've been working together, gosh, for almost 5-6 months, actually 6 months. We first got together when you had this show coming up and you need a commercial for the event you were going to do. And after that, and in that process, we started learning about you. Like we really started learning about you. And it was actually a brand new subject to us. And as we think about this, there's people out there that are pioneers. And there's people out there that are making things that other people have made. What you're doing is creating a category. Right? It's its own thing. And so one of the things coming in this, I'm just curious, how did this all get started? What, I mean, clearly there's a problem out there, but how did you figure out what it was that you're solving? And back to one of my favorite people, Simon Sinek, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Who are you helping? Why'd you bring it to the world and what's it solve?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you guys for having us. It's really great to be with you and glad everyone survived all the crazy weather elements. Yeah, when you talk about the category that we are creating, it's a new category. It's capacity management. And capacity management did not exist prior to the pandemic. And so we didn't just roll out of bed in 2018, 2019 and said, I got this great idea. Let's solve for capacity management. This was really a function of my background, what happened post-pandemic, and then how we responded as a company to the change in the environment of restaurant and hospitality.
And is that briefly,
my background was in restaurant real estate. So I used to represent a lot of the big national restaurant chains, the Dunkin' Donuts, the Wendy's of the world. I helped them find their drive-thrus and negotiate their deals. And we started to see a trend in the early 2000s, particularly when Starbucks moved from the cafe to the drive-thru. All of a sudden, volume skyrocketed. And you had all these other players moving into the drive-thru space, and it became very competitive. So I was thinking of a way to democratize the drive-thru by introducing technology into the four walls. And we came up with a virtual drive-thru. And so we launched the virtual drive-thru in March of 2020. That was an interesting month to come out with it. It was a very magical experience where guests would order on the Curbit app. They would arrive, and food would be walked to their car. But what happened in the pandemic is you had this explosion of digital ordering. So it used to be you walked into a restaurant, you ordered for here to go, very predictable. Now all of a sudden you had this flood of orders coming in from multiple channels, and you needed a way to manage it. Our virtual drive-through had serious flaws because the one thing that was missing was the prep time. So we were using crude algorithms. We didn't know precisely when the order would be ready. That's what set us off on this journey to get to where we are today, to really understand kitchen capacity, to inform the pickup experience, and ultimately ensure not only curbside users, but all users that are ordering off premise are picking up on time and not creating the chaos that we see in the lobbies.
So the pandemic really caused a big shift in almost seismically on what you're planning on doing, right? The volumes have increased on the different channels, and now you had to react.
Exactly. Yeah. The business model was flawed. So if you're going from just a handful of digital orders today a day, it's very predictable. But when you all of a sudden send 10, 15, 20 curbside pickup orders at once, if those aren't guided by accurate promise times, you've got chaos. You've got the problem that every single person that's watching or listening today has experienced. You're either ordering online and you're picking up food that's been sitting on a shelf and it's cold and soggy, or you're arriving and waiting longer than promised, and it becomes a very frustrating experience.
And for the sake of our listeners, and some people actually want to watch this, what is the difference between the capacity management? Does it change when it comes to in the restaurant? Because beforehand, you're probably thinking about the guest experience more than the DSP, right? You're still trying to give an idea of time to people, but it feels like it's more focused for those people that are now in the DSP channels, right? But is there a time piece that goes to the actual people coming into the restaurant now?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you make the decision, restaurants do all this hard work. They've marketed to their customers. They've marketed they've spent a lot of money to get you to go online and place an order. Your expectation as a consumer is that when you place that order, the brand is going to deliver on the promise and ensure that you pick up your food on time. Just like when you do your banking or your travel, there's an expectation that the digital ordering is going to result in a reliable experience. And so that's the hole that we're filling in restaurant hospitality, is the restaurants really have no way of ensuring that reliably. It's very much based on configuration. How many orders are we going to accept in a certain period of time? When it gets busy, staff has to go in. They have to go in and change configurations on the fly based on the gut instinct of, hey, do we turn off digital ordering because we think it's too busy? Curbit is using machines. We're using computers. We're using AI to analyze each of these individual restaurant locations, each individual order, to create a very realistic expectation of speed of service. So when that user orders, the time that they get when they check out, that is going to translate into what is actually happening in the kitchen. So they're picking up fresh food on time.
So would you say, for the layman, somebody who's just chiming into this kind of subject, that this is essentially like an air traffic controller for your food?
Exactly.
Yeah, you need landing when, what runway. It really feels like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you think about what the restaurant industry was pre-pandemic, like I said earlier, it was very predictable. You walked into a restaurant, you ordered for here to go. When all of a sudden you introduce all these other channels, particularly the digital, while that was absolutely a lifeline for the industry, when you think about delivery and all the online ordering providers that they came around during the pandemic, absolute lifeline. It saved the industry. But what that was doing was that was sending orders into the kitchen. What was missing was there's all this data, there's all this information inside the kitchen. How are you contemplating that data to inform the pickup experience? And that is air traffic control. If you don't have data, if you're not informing all those users to arrive with data, it's all guided by hope and guesswork.
Yeah, I guess we can imagine what. Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to just back up for a minute because I just want to explore, and maybe Fran, you can help me weave through this a little bit. The major problem, there's so many problems that are attached to pickup times that are inaccurate. There's, well, not only just pickup times that are inaccurate, but also the amount of stress that's put on the operation during these really busy times. Fran, maybe can you describe for us a little bit about the chaos that's going on inside the restaurant and how Curbit can help curtail that?
Yeah, sure. So again, guys, thanks for having us. It's great to be here with you. And I can't say enough about the positive way that we work together, and not just a working relationship, but really developing a great friendship.
That's great.
The restaurant's a very chaotic place. And there is a constrained resource. If you watch any of the food shows, the cooking shows, what goes on, no matter how much you throw at it, you can't get any more out of a assembly line, a restaurant, a make line, than the number of people and the amount of equipment they have. And then every once in a while, they'll get thrown a curveball. Suppose you have the sports team, a bus pull up, and all of a sudden you get this big influx.
Every restaurant is afraid of that bus.
Yeah. I used to be the videographer for my kids' football team, and we've done that. It's a difficult position for them to be in. And you don't want to just turn on and off knobs. You don't want to turn off digital ordering. I mean, imagine if you take the physical where you turn off digital orders, you can't order anymore. But imagine when a restaurant gets busy and you walk to go into your favorite restaurant, and they don't give you anything back. You just go to the front door and it's locked. Digitally turning off it's like the same experience. You go to your favorite restaurant, you're ready to order, and the door's locked. That doesn't really work, right? Because now you've just potentially lost a customer. They could have been a very good customer, right? And we all know the cost of reacquisition is much, much higher than the cost of customer acquisition. But you don't even know that you lost somebody, and how do you get them back? And then you translate all of that into the restaurant. If you're getting a lot of digital orders, all of a sudden now you have the third-party deliveries. They're stacking up in the lobby. Where's the food? And they keep interrupting the host or hostess of, hey, where's my stuff? I've been waiting. They ordered sooner. It's all money to them. And then you further exacerbate that onto the macroeconomic climate where they're trying to push living wages for those drivers and everything. And every minute is real money, right? Particularly in these laws of large numbers. If you take a look across all of the deliveries, right? There was about 3 billion orders delivered last year.
3 billion?
3 billion across all of it. So you start to shave a minute or 2 minutes off of driver wait time for each order. Now you're into big dollars, especially when you start to look at about $20 an hour in pay, right? Do the math, right? You're talking about big numbers with a B.
Yeah, I'm just doing the math on delivery fees alone against that order number. I'm like, Jesus, like the tips alone.
So what the team at Curbit has been able to do is instrument and pull data out of that which has not been instrumented before. Think about it. A kitchen is a custom manufacturing line.
That's right.
Everything is built to order. It has a fixed time to consumption, right? And an expiration time, right? It is disposable after a while. It's no good.
When you talk about capacity management, you're really talking about, so the capacity, a restaurant's capacity could be or should be a known quantity, a known number, and you can try to optimize it. Otherwise,
theoretically, it's a known number. Theoretically, you can put X numbers of orders through, but every item in every order and every combination is not the same.
Right.
It doesn't reflect the fact that somebody might call in sick and you don't have another person for them to backfill. The only way that you can really understand what's happening and maximize your throughput of the kitchen is to see what's going on there, and also use all that information to help coach the kitchen staff. And over time, our models build out like, what are the deviations from the norm? If a certain type of order, a certain item takes a certain amount of time, and then every once in a while you see these blips going on where now it's taken 3 times longer, what's going on? What happened? And then how do you help that location overcome whatever the issue is in a way that is predictable and very close to real time? If you take the normal way that things happen now, somebody has a bad experience. Guest goes in, pick something up, they have a bad experience. So then they might go and they write something on one of your favorite review sites. Mm-hmm. Then it comes back and somebody reaches out to them and says, hey, we're really sorry, we want to make this right. But during that period of time, it could be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they're sitting exposed with a bad number on their reviews. And there's already enough research from various well-known organizations that says, look, if you're not getting at least a 4-star, your establishment's in trouble.
Right. I think we saw that study was 4.1, I think was what they were calling for. I wanted to ask the question, Michael, when Michael and I were talking earlier about the integrations necessary for Curbit to work. Scott, what other technologies is Curbit typically integrating with in a given customer site?
Yeah, just think of us as the bridge between the kitchen and the digital ordering channel. So what we're really focused on is the KDS, the kitchen display system. There's about 5 or 6 enterprise KDS systems that when I started in the beginning about sort of our origin story and how we moved into the kitchen, it took us about 2 years to develop those integrations because those systems largely weren't designed to extract data out. Some had APIs, some had the webhooks that we needed, but for the most part, we had to develop around those systems. Here we are today with integrations with all of the major systems. If you think about QSR automations, Toast has a KDS, Brink, Aloha Kitchen has a KDS. Those are some of the significant ones. And then on the digital ordering side, of course, the big player is Olo. Olo represents, I would say, 75% of our customers, being that we're really designed for that enterprise multi-location brand.
Right.
And we're developing several other, we have 3 or 4 other integrations on the online ordering side as well. The unique thing about Curbit is really we're in a position to bypass the point of sale. That's the uniqueness of the architecture of our system is basically we receive these payloads from the digital ordering provider and the KDS provider. We create a digital twin. We're correlating those 2 orders, create our own digital twin, bring it into the cloud, apply all these processes to the data, and then put it right back into the guest experience. So they know when to arrive. They got all the order progress of whether their order's ahead or behind schedule. And then we can also influence the throughput of a kitchen by informing those orders when they need to release so they're prioritized based on what's in the queue.
Can you send that information off to like CX providers and people who are trying to get other information around the customer experience? Is that data, can your clients make that available to other systems?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and to add a little bit what Scott said, we have the ability to really traffic manage from the time an order was entered all the way through pickup, which includes integrations with digital lockers. Don't want to forget our good partners, which we're working very closely with as another online ordering system. From the point of sale all the way through the KDS, all the way through pickup, digital lockers, right, where there's been some movement in the industry instead of having bags sitting out using digital lockers.
Mm-hmm.
Then in that, we have lots and lots of data that our models are able to go through and derive other types of information, right? So, for example, at the conclusion, we send out a little survey. And I say survey in quotes because it's not a typical one. We don't send you to a link which has a very low acceptance rate because people don't know how much time is this going to tell me or take me. And I've got to log in, I got to do all this other stuff. But we do it through SMS. And those very few questions give us our own sanity check. Were we on time? Was the order actually to the customer satisfaction? And then we have this very open-ended question that they're able to feed back, which then informs our large language model of understanding things like, hey, my burger was great, but my fries were cold and my guac was brown. So now we can take and we can vector that type of response and those things to a CX system to take further action.
Interesting.
Got it. While we're on that subject, I know that you guys did a recent study or a case study with Smashburger, and there's probably some really interesting numbers out of that. Maybe share a little bit about that because I know it's such a well-beloved brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was really our watershed moment. Was first working together closely with a brand that believed and trusted in Curbit to put this test in motion. And we really came out of that with some really compelling metrics. We did a 90-day case study where we split tested 60 locations. So 30 were instrumented with Curbit, and then the other 30 were left with their own default configuration. After the pilot period, we came out of it with metrics that you would predict. Largely, we were impacting guest repeat rates. So we saw a 22% increase in guest satisfaction. We saw an 11% improvement in the Google and Yelp ratings online. And then there was an 84% improvement in order timing. And so what that means is the time that the users were being told to pick up food compared to when the food was actually ready. 84% improvement. While that sounds crazy, when we onboard other brands and we go through the exercise of showing them the problem, similar to what we did with Smashburger, it's a very common metric. You'll be shocked to see how inaccurate the quote times are with some of these default configurations compared to when you turn this Curbit switch on, we immediately improvement to where our SLA is we're going to arrive the guests within 60 seconds of the promise time.
How's that impacted chargebacks and waste? Or do you have any numbers there or any idea? Because it feels if somebody said, hey, my food is cold, that is potentially a waste or a chargeback. Like there seems like there's some real financial benefits in here too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just intuitively, we're removing all the noise out of the lobby. So if you think about you're picking up food, we just heard from a brand today, a very large brand that we're just starting to onboard, where all of their scheduled orders are being completed 6.5 minutes before, or excuse me, the food is being completed 6.5 minutes before the guest arrives. When you're talking high volume, that's a lot of food that's cold, that's soggy, that's naturally going to lead to low guest sentiment. Yeah. So we see that was part of our Smashburger case study as well.
Yeah, it really seems like just an accurate order time or an accurate pickup time really is the tide that lifts all the boats in the harbor. It really has just this dramatic effect, this positive effect on the entire on so many different metrics.
Yeah.
From reputation management to online reviews to repeat visits. It
sounds simple. It sounds easy, right? It sounds like I can just go into my portal and put in make times or prep times, and that's just going to translate. The nature of the restaurant industry now is you have all these disparate systems. You have online ordering, you've got a point of sale, you've got a kitchen system. They all have to be tied together.
Yeah.
And when they're not, when you're not communicating data back upstream and downstream and really ensuring that reliable promise time, it's just math, right? In any sort of high volume environment, you're going to have guests arrive too soon. You're going to have them arrive late, and the whole operation falls on its face.
So can you talk a little bit about the messaging that you guys do to ensure that people are arriving on time to pick up the orders? How does that work? Are you using...
Yeah. If you just think about just like actually what we're doing. So if you think about the ordering experience off premise, a user is going to go online and order on their restaurant's app. So brands that are powered by Curbit will have their quote times update dynamically to reflect the capacity of the kitchen. It's not guesswork. It's not a configuration. It's when I go to that restaurant, the time I see is going to reflect how long it's going to take to make. Okay, so that's the first gate. You check out, then you get a message from Curbit. Generally, it's via SMS, and then we're gonna analyze the workflow in the kitchen. So if the kitchen's ahead of schedule, behind schedule, things are going to happen. Just because you got a promised time at checkout doesn't mean that 15 minutes later, that's going to hold up. So that last mile, that hand-holding from checkout to pickup is essential. So we're creating that transparency for the user. So it's almost like they're right in the kitchen. They're seeing their order made. And as it progresses, we're going to inform them in real time. So they arrive just as that food's
right on time.
Now, is proximity data a part of that algorithm? I know it's your secret sauce, but depending upon how far away you may be.
Yeah, so proximity, where that comes into play, is really optimizing the flow of the orders into the pipe. We are very unique in that we know where the users are located, which is nice. Obviously, there's geolocation capabilities with that. But when you couple that with understanding the capacity of the kitchen in real time, that's the secret sauce. That's when you marry those two, that's when you can really get into optimizing when orders are sequenced into the kitchen. So guests that are on premise, that are dining in, their food's going to get made before somebody that's 15 minutes away, but it might only take 10 minutes to prepare their food.
This is awesome.
I'm going to ask you a question that's off the beaten path here, because a lot of our audience are like yourself, startup founders and people that have a big idea. And when I'm thinking about Smashburger, right, that's a company that's established and they're typically kind of risk averse. How did you make that happen? Just a little insight. I know you're not going to give away the whole story, but for people that are trying to do what you're doing and so successfully, how did you make that one happen?
Trust. Yeah, you got to build trust. You have to be relentless about it. It's not about how much money we can make or how big we can get. It's about building relationships with the restaurants, building their trust that what we do is going to work the way that we say it's going to work. And the way that we do that, we don't just throw it out there. We don't just turn something on. We're very pragmatic in our approach. So when we onboard a brand, the first thing that we do is we get access to their data. So the kitchen system, the online ordering system, we QA all that data. We make sure that all the signals are coming in clean. We train a prediction model. So we know, what does our data look compared to what does the brand's configurations look like? And then we show them the data.
That helps us establish a baseline, right? So
yeah,
sorry, Steph, but it helps us establish a baseline so that everybody knows here's where we are.
Yeah.
And then back to you, Scott.
Yeah. So we have it's basically it's our tool that converts our customers 100% of the time. So we put up a dashboard. We show them how their locations are performing currently. So that order timing, what are the quote times they're telling their guests compared to the actual durations? That delta represents the problem. Then we flip on a switch. We show them, if you turn Curbit on, this is what the improvement would look like. So it gives the brand a lot of confidence that when it gets turned on, that the data is going to translate into the experience.
So it's scenario modeling in parallel as the system's flowing, saying, if you turn this over, you will get this. And it's almost like a why don't we turn it on?
Exactly.
Moment?
Yeah. It makes it a no-brainer decision. And that's...
Is there a hey dummy light that comes on?
Let me add a little bit, right? So part of what we've done, in addition, trust being the foundation, right? We endeavor to be just good, neutral partners and just help. So we wanted to have a price point that made it super easy for everyone to say yes. We don't require any new hardware, right? So what we do is inject just a small piece of software in existing systems. So there's no new hardware, there's no new investment, there's no real anything to just give it a try, see how it works. We establish that baseline. And then we're able to show lots and lots of different operational insights that we are able to derive from the data. For example, we can tell we have this great graph. So we call it about the happy handoffs. We also have the WTF graph. Ooh. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the WTF graph. Worst to first.
Worst to first. You had me there going there, Fran.
So if you go across the entire brand, we can correlate guest sentiment, deviation from prep times, all that, to get an idea, a picture across the brands of the best performing locations against the worst performing locations. Help them establish an operational blueprint that then helps them all to get better so that the brand's value overall increases, revenue increases, employees are much happier because they're not having to deal with customers who are just unhappy. And we've all seen enough videos of what happens when an unhappy customer goes into a restaurant and, acts the fool. It's amazing what this real-time system can provide back in terms of operational behavior and just ways to get better, constantly improve, constantly provide your brand promise.
That's awesome. Hey guys, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we want to hear a little bit more from the Curbit guys with our favorite part of the episode. Hate to tell you, and this will be an opportunity where the guys from Curbit will be able to talk about maybe some misconceptions they hear about order throttling, capacity management, and all the wonderful things that these guys do. So let's take a break and we'll be right back in 2 and 2.
You know that Chuck Wooler used to do that.
I know. We're old. Dude.
I was on the dating game. I was a contestant on the show. I was
Were you really?
Bachelor number 1. I lost.
Wait, what year? Like in the 80s?
This is in the early 90s. My main question was, so Bachelor number 2, if Bachelor number one were a car brought into your shop, what would need to be fixed? And the guy said about me, he goes, looks like there's some dents that would need to be fixed and hammered out. And he goes, Bachelor number 1, same about Bachelor number 2. I go, Chuck, looks like he's got a flat or balding tire and there seems to be an exhaust problem. And that was my.
All right, guess what? We're keeping that. We'll be back.
Where's the YouTube clip?
Yeah, there's our clip. Thanks, Michael.
I have proof around here. I'll pull it up for us.
Everybody, happy handoff time. Quiet.
And we're back.
When food isn't on time, everyone suffers. Introducing Curbit. Curbit brings kitchen intelligence to your ordering experience. This way, your kitchen and customers are always on the same page. Then, it gives your customers a promised time that updates in real time, so your food is always fresh. Curbit. Promises kept.
And we're back. Michael, what the heck were we just talking about?
Just one of those random forced Beck moments where I found myself on the dating game with Chuck Woolery back in the early 90s. I did not win, unfortunately, but had a great time on the show.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
Not sure how we got
here. Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do in the show.
I am Captain Non Sequitur.
Well, but that's why we love you. It's all good. All right, listen. It's time for Hate to Tell You But. Hate to Tell You But is really the number one reason why everybody tunes into this show. It's because this is your opportunity to challenge an industry misconception. You guys have the stage. What is it that you hear from time to time that you just have to say to yourself, no, I think you have it wrong. I hate to tell you.
You're Mythbusters right now.
You're Mythbusters.
That's some myths. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to state it and Scott can fill it in.
What's that?
I hate to tell you, but I could manage all this through configuration and manually turning orders on and off.
That's
Scott?
it.
Yeah. That's a big one.
That's what it's. I can do this, or we can do this. Brands that think that they can build a capacity management solution, develop, test it, manage it. It is incredibly challenging, and it's not the kind of thing that you can get right 90% of the time. It's the 10% that when it's not working the way it's supposed to, will crush you.
Right.
It's only now that it's even possible because of
another
AI
one.
and technology.
I'm going to throw Scott another pitch. Hate to tell you, but I can build a forecasting model based on what happened last Friday that'll tell you exactly how many orders you need for this Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, again, you can have the most incredible, and the delivery drivers have this, a lot of historical data, but if you don't know what's happening in real time, guess what? It doesn't matter what you did last Friday or the year before, it will fall on its face.
It's hard to forecast when it comes to people, right? If you do flat numbers and a reoccurring thing, but we're talking about human beings, like how much can you actually put us in a bucket and tell us how we're going to behave?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the other human element of this is just that how everybody has been conditioned, particularly over the last several years, with knowing when they're going to receive deliveries, right? Whether it be the UPS or FedEx or DHL or any sort of package delivery, anything, an Uber, when is the guy going to come and pick me up exactly? There's a certain amount of expectation nowadays that people just expect to know that their food should be ready now. And when I walk in the door, there it will be in the pickup area or in the locker or my name on the screen, right?
The consumer is going to flock to what they're familiar with and what they know it works. That's why if you look at the drive-thrus, why are people willing to wait an hour on a Starbucks or an In-N-Out burger or one of these, or a Chick-fil-A? It's because when you pull into that lane, you know exactly what you're going to get every time. That wait time's explicit because you see the cars in the queue, but you know when you speak your order into that little box that you're going to get fresh food in 10 minutes every time.
Yes.
If you didn't have that, then no one would sit in that line for an hour. It would fall on its face.
Yeah, there's truth there. I just want to go back to one of the myth bustings about this concept of order throttling. Before you guys came along, there was the term that was being thrown around a lot was this idea of order throttling. And I feel like that is a very manual thing to do. It is like flicking the switch on and off, depending upon the manager's or the operator's pain threshold.
There's no preamble to the buyer, right? It's just off, essentially, right? There's no, you just can't order from them right now. That's
it's the managers are having to make gut decisions during the busiest day parts, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when they think it's too busy. And that all goes back to sequencing orders, making sure that the orders that are hitting the point of sale are coming in at the right time, not bombarding it so the staff feels overwhelmed, but doing it in a very, practical way where it's all guided by data. And I think it's like the restaurant industry used to be a great place. I worked in the restaurant industry growing up. I used to wait tables, and it was a fun place to work because you didn't have the chaos. But think about working in a restaurant today, all the things that you have to deal with. Guests complaining about cold food, guests waiting longer than promised, staff having to make these critical decisions. Do I turn digital ordering or off or keep it on? It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of thinking. And with Curbit, we remove the thought. It's just react. Don't think.
Yeah.
we just looked at an RFI, and one of the things was all these configurations. So, do you have the control? One of the questions: do you have the control to tell how many orders we can put into 15-minute time slots? Okay, so when does that break down? Do you leave revenue on the table because you said you're going to do 4 digital orders per 15-minute time slot, but you can actually do 8 because nobody's in the restaurant, but you have all these and you turn them off, right? Or do you make more and then you have the risk of burying your kitchen staff? I was going to use a line from Ashton Kutcher's "Dude, Where's My Car?" And then you have all these orders coming in, and then and then you turn it off.
And that was a drive-through. It actually happened, and that's the best part. That's so funny. That is so funny. Threw me off with that. I actually had a great question. I just lost it because I didn't think you would go to "Dude, Where's My Car?" That's awesome. The thing that keeps popping into my head this whole time, and I'm going to show my age on this one, is at first when I was talking about the air traffic controllers, the thing about planes piling up on the runway. But then my head went to Lucille Ball, the old I Love Lucy show, and she's making the chocolates. And I don't think there's anybody alive right now that doesn't know about her having all these chocolates piling up and shoving them in her mouth to try to get them out of the way. And it just keeps coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's absolutely wild. And I actually remembered my question. So it sounds like the author of your RFP was asking a question that's been solved by what's here. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been asked, because you're not trying to chunk a set amount into a time wedge. You're trying to figure out what you can fit in that time wedge by merit of what your AI tells it and the data. Is that true?
Right. Yeah. And in turn, what that helps you do is maximize revenue, because really, if a guest has an expectation set and you go, okay, it's going to be 30 minutes. Now I have control of my time of what I'm going to do for the next 15 or 20 before I leave.
Yep.
But if you tell me it's going to get 30 minutes and I get there and it's really, I'm sitting in the lobby for a half hour or 20 minutes waiting, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter how good the food is. I'm going to be annoyed because you've just wasted 20 minutes of my time.
It wasn't an actual case study, but it was an anecdotal story from one of our really valued customers, Zippy's. So they're a wine-based chain. They're in the process of expanding across the mainland. So early on, this was right when we brought Fran into the organization, and we had to do some stuff to get our COGS under control. There was a period where we actually had to turn Zippy's off for about 30 days. So they had this really powerful service, this very reliable experience going into their digital ordering channels where guests were arriving on time. All that noise lobby was removed, and then we turned it off. What happened was their guests actually started complaining to the store managers because, like, where did all this information go? How come I don't know when my order is going to be ready anymore? And so it was just a very interesting validation for us that, and what we're doing is it really has a profound impact.
Absolutely.
All fear is based in lack of information.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
exactly.
We love the Uber.
Yeah,
we love looking at the car and watching it the whole way, and there it is. It's you want that confidence that when you hit checkout that it's going to deliver.
So just a couple of the takeaways as we wind down here. Curbit seems to have a really special recipe, for lack of a better word, for removing bottlenecks inside the kitchen, to getting people their orders on time in a way that makes everybody feel better about the entire handoff experience. There are some pretty substantial positives that go along with getting orders on time, right? You have employees that are not stressed out anymore, right? You're probably going to retain your employees longer because it's not as chaotic as it once was, right? It's a better place to work, a better working environment. You're going to get better and probably more frequent positive guest feedback. You're going to have a better understanding of financial clarity and cost controls. You've got basically a turnkey solution, right? You have the integrations that are all locked up.
Yeah, and there's stuff in the data that we haven't even tapped yet that we'll be able to do. How many of a certain type of order? Are you charging the right amount because we know exactly how long it takes to do it? Is there stuff that you have on your menu that maybe you should optimize out? You ordered enough guac for, say, 100 or 200, burritos, but then you're finding out you're only getting 100 out of them. Why is that? So there's all of this optimization and insights we can get. We haven't even tapped all the data to get to true operational excellence.
Awesome.
Yeah, Paul, I think to your point, it's with Curbit, everybody in the restaurant value chain wins. Okay, so you think about guests aren't waiting. They're getting their time back. They're getting fresh food. Delivery driver, same thing. They get to make more deliveries, make more money. The staff, they're not dealing with chaos in this real agonizing, frustrating place to work. It's easy. The noise is removed. They're doing higher volume, higher revenue. It's just all across the board. Everybody wins. It's not just one person in the value chain. It's the technology providers. All these systems that are in place that we integrate with, all of a sudden, the ROI that the brand invested in those systems is increased because now they're getting all these capabilities that they wouldn't have had without Curbit.
It feels too like just the fact of keeping the guest informed will kill the Karen. Kill the Karen. How do we get Karen out of the business, right? And typically Karen's ticked off because I don't know what's going on, right? And so it feels like a Karen killer.
Yeah.
Right. If I could keep my staff happy, it would go away.
You guys just redid our website, so maybe we tweak it again and just put that.
Hey, wait a minute! My partner's name's Karen. We got to.
Yeah, we were monkeying around with control the flow. Maybe kill Karen. That might be the.
But Fran's partner, girlfriend is name is Karen, but I hear she's really nice. So let's go ahead and pivot to the important part of this. One of the important part of this conversation is for Curbit. Where are they going to find you next? We know you can find you on Curbit.com, and that you have a presence on LinkedIn with lots of good content you're doing regularly, and that you have a LinkedIn channel that people can follow. Where else can they find you? I'm excited to see you guys next at the FS Tech Show. I understand you're doing Innovation Alley.
We will be there. Yeah. So we're at all the shows. So FS Tech is the next one. We'd like to.
You can always spot Scott.
What's that?
Scott's usually the tallest guy, right? So you can always spot Scott.
I always get the sticker shock when people see me for the first time, because you only got this on the Zoom, but yeah, I might be the
I don't remember you being that tall. How tall are you, Scott?
6'7".
Oh, Jesus. Wow, I must have been wearing heels that day. Okay.
That's a big boy.
Okay. All right. So you can find Curbit coming up at the FS Tech Show. You can find them walking the floor of almost any show there. You can reach out to them on LinkedIn, and you can find them on Curbit.com. It's a fantastic product. It's a fantastic team. The feedback I've heard from everybody that works for them is they want to do more work with them. If you're interested in Curbit as a product, please reach out. If you're interested in partnering with Curbit, if you're a POS or a KDS system, reach out. There might be an opportunity for you to work with this fantastic team and a concept that really has added real utility to AI, which is what you need to think about when you're talking about AI. What's it going to do for you? Not that buzzword. You guys have found it.
Yeah. Practical solution.
Boom.
Awesome. Evening, Ralph.
Evening, Sam.
All right. Good job, fellas.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Good night, John Boy.
Take care, guys.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for making a great show with us. Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.
All right, thanks, guys.